Coronavirus cases in Nigeria rise to 981, with 108 new cases confirmed by the NCDC.
Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 directs NCDC to intensify contact tracing in Kano State.
The situation in Kano is still being assessed and monitored closely. Necessary steps are taken in conjunction with the state government.
ECOWAS leaders appoint President Buhari as champion of COVID-19 response.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we continue our discussion on COVID-19 with focus on the Ramadan fast.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem to all my Muslim brothers and sisters, and as we all know, until a new moon is sighted, the Ramadan fast, which is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, does not begin. But good enough, the Sultan of Sokoto yesterday announced the sighting of the crescent for the month of Ramadan, and following that announcement, the 30-day Ramadan fast has commenced this Friday, the 24th of April 2020.
Yeah, you are indeed right, Claire. And some of the requirements of adherents of the faith include reading and teaching of the Holy Quran, delivering sermons, observing the nightly Tarawih prayers, I hope I'm right there, and zakat, which is alms giving to the poor. All of which are obligatory and usually highly congregational.
Indeed, Kieran, you're quite right, the Tarawih nightly prayers. But one very important aspect of Ramadan is the iftar, which is, of course, the breaking of the fast. Traditionally, iftar is observed communally by sharing meals with extended family and friends, and also extending such meals to the less privileged. And as Kieran earlier indicated, all of these practices, with exception of the sahur or pre-dawn meal, are highly congregational. Now, you do have an idea of where we're going to?
Well, that's right, Claire. Again, the coronavirus pandemic has really dampened religious activities all around the world. Recall that during Easter celebration, Christians had to hold Easter church services online. Pope Francis himself had to stand before a deserted St. Peter's Basilica to deliver the yearly Easter message, Orbita Obi, in Latin parlance, which is, of course, highly unprecedented.
Well, with regards to Ramadan, considering that the COVID-19 containment protocols such as social distancing, ban on Jumad or congregational gathering, lockdown, and of course movement restriction are still in force, holding of these congregational Islamic rites won't be possible during this Ramadan, and of course probably during the Eid al-Fitr celebration.
And just to add that religious leaders all over the world are complying with the containment protocols. Claire earlier indicated that, and of course the yearly pilgrimage to Mecca will also be affected, as the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has indicated that movement restriction will not be lifted until the pandemic is over. And here at home, the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs has also endorsed and identified with all the containment measures put in place by the federal government.
So this year's Ramadan will certainly be different, and from the eye view of thousands of peasant adherents, absolutely unthinkable. But the big question is, how will the Muslim community respond to the coronavirus pandemic, specifically during this holy month of Ramadan? And that's the thrust of our conversation this Friday, which is, of course, the last edition of Good Morning Nigeria this week. I am Claire Adilabu Abdurrazak. Welcome to the program.
And of course, COVID-19 has no doubt poised on the ulamas, imams, and all religious leaders a huge responsibility of enlightening their followers on how to observe Ramadan fast without losing the targeted spiritual rewards during this pandemic. My name is Kirian Umayo. It's my pleasure also to welcome you to this particular edition of Good Morning Nigeria, showing on the network service of the Indian. Of course, we're reaching from the capital city of Abuja.
All right, in the course of the program, as usual, hopefully we'll have Bayat Toyebi here to do the usual review of newspapers, but that would not be before business news. And if time permits, we'll also take a peep into other, complementary segments of the program. But let's begin now with highlights of the morning news with, of course, Musba Dan Wahab. Musba, Ramadan Kareem to you.
Yes, Ramadan Mubarak to you and to our Muslim brothers and sisters across the world. Welcome to the news. President Muhammadu Buhari is sending his best wishes to Muslims in the country and all over the world as they begin this year's 30-day Ramadan fast following the sighting of the moon. In a statement released by the Senior Special Assistant to the President, Media and Publicity, Garuba Shehu, the President urges Muslims to endure while participating in the religious obligation. It says, in this Ramadan period, the kind of socializing Muslims are used to risk spreading the coronavirus, and so cautions them to refrain from those Ramadan rituals and traditions such as group meals and congregational prayers that have been put on hold by Muslim religious authorities all over the world. It wishes Muslims in the country and the world all the blessings of a holy month. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has announced 108 new cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria, increasing the number of confirmed cases to 981. Of the 108 new cases, 78 are in Lagos, 14 in the FCT, 5 in Ogun, 4 in Gombe, 3 in Borno, 2 in Akwa Ibom, 1 each in Kwara and Plateau State. Lagos State now has a total of 582 cases, followed by FCT with 133, while Kano State has 73 cases confirmed. 197 patients have been discharged, with 31 deaths recorded so far. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has directed the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, to immediately dispatch an enhanced rapid response team to intensify contact tracing in Kano State. Chairman of the task force, Boss Mustafa, says this has become necessary to stop the ancient city from becoming the next epicenter of coronavirus in Nigeria.
In Kano is still being assessed and monitored closely. Necessary steps are taken in conjunction with the state government to contain the spread of the pandemic in Kano and stop the city from becoming the next epicenter.
We'll carry out control measures and see if it's an infectious disease, if it's COVID, if it's something else. These are things that are now happening in Kano. And I think you'll see the results over the next few days.
Additional lab equipments have also been sent to Kano yesterday, but the Kano lab at the moment is closed for the next few days while fumigation and disinfection is ongoing.
The high number of new cases is a manifestation of more efficient testing, but also of ongoing community transmission.
President Muhammadu Buhari has called on fellow ECOWAS leaders to look beyond the challenges posed by the COVID-19 and tap into various opportunities that it presents for the betterment of lives in member countries. Speaking at an extraordinary ECOWAS summit on COVID-19 held via teleconferencing, President Buhari calls for more collaboration to save the region from the deadly pandemic through sharing of experiences and best practices.
Revenues are declining drastically due to the fall in commodity prices. At the same time, government continues to spend massively on the containment of the virus, medical care for those infected, and minimizing the impact of the crisis on the poor and vulnerable. This situation puts severe pressure on our finances by increasing our expenditures and dwindling revenues. This invariably has led to a restructuring and reduction of our budget.
And following that extraordinary summit, President Muhammadu Buhari has been elected champion to lead other leaders in the West African sub-region in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. Special advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, speaks more on the appointment.
West African leaders discussed how to tackle the period of COVID-19 and what to do post-COVID. Now, at the end of it all, it was decided that there should be a champion who will lead the response of the sub-region. And that champion is President Muhammadu Buhari of Nigeria. So our president is going to lead the response of West Africa to the challenge of COVID-19.
And away from that, the Economic Sustainability Committee held its fourth meeting this Thursday, with Vice President Yemi Osinbajo presiding. At the meeting, 3 subcommittees filed in report for review. The Economic Sustainability Committee now meets almost on daily basis, and this is to hasten the preparation of a final report to be submitted to the President for approval. Minister of State for Budgets and National Planning speaks more on the meeting.
On the forthcoming sustainability plan, because we want to put numbers to the various programs that we are doing. There's a job creation committee. They also made a report. And then the third committee has to do with how to gradually reopen the economy.
And worried by the increasing cases of COVID-19, the Ooni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi, is donating 72 motorized fumigation machines to the 36 states of Nigeria, including the Federal Capital Territory, to support the efforts of combating the pandemic.
It's been done. It has actually become a global mockery. What is being done in the Western world. Pulled all the youths together, maintained all the rules and regulation, and we started fabricating this. We have now decided to give it for free to all the 36 states of this country.
Federal government has distributed food items to the residents and vulnerable in the Federal Capital Territory as part of a palliative to bring a light of hope. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Umar Farouk, who handed over the food items to the Minister of State for FCT, said it's an effort of ensuring that the poor and vulnerable groups in the lockdown states benefit from the program.
Right, gesture by Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is what we have done today. We have carried out that directive by handing over this food relief to the Honorable Minister of the Federal Capital Territory.
We have received so far 5 trucks of rice and 5 trucks again on the way, as we are made to understand. There are trucks of other grains, and there will be trucks of vegetable oil and tomato paste.
Thus, the news highlights for now. Good Morning Nigeria will continue with Claire and Kieran after this break, and Musbal and Wahab. Good morning and Ramadan Kareem.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
essential to keep your family safe. Did you know that the sodium hypochlorite, the active ingredient in hypo bleach, is equipped to fight viruses and germs? Add some bleach to water, soak a clean napkin in diluted bleach, and wipe off germs from common contact surfaces. Wipe off with hypo. Disinfect your home with hypo bleach always.
Endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association.
It's time to take responsibility. So I'm staying home, watching videos and learning as well. We are all aware of the pandemic hitting the world today. The COVID-19 virus is real. A big thank you to all our health workers, doctors, nurses, everybody fighting this pandemic in their own way. Please stay home, save lives. Prevention is better than cure. Stay responsible.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
The main way coronavirus spread is when infected people sneeze and cough. Small droplets of fluid expelled by cough or sneezes are laced with viruses looking for new respiratory tracts to infect. When a sick person sneezes around someone who is healthy, the virus can land in the nose, mouth, or even the eyes, causing an infection. Symptoms can include fever, cough, shortness of breath. Symptoms may appear within 2 to 14 days. Seek medical advice if you develop symptoms and have been in close contact with a person known to have COVID-19, or if you live or have recently been in an area with ongoing spread of COVID-19. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
All right, welcome back, and the program is Good Morning Nigeria this Friday. Now, ensuring accuracy and reliability of financial reports as well as corporate disclosures was the focus of another financial reporting guideline for finance managers recently released. And our correspondent Chimobi Walter in Nigeria was there. That's on Business News.
The Finance Reporting Council of Nigeria has released yet another guidance on the impact of COVID-19 on financial reporting, and this is the second of such guidance to be released by the Council in just over 2 weeks. While the first guidance targets auditors of financial statements in Nigeria, The latest guidance targets preparers of financial statements during COVID-19 period. The Financial Reporting Council notes that the purpose of the guidance is for directors of reporting entities and those charged with governance to assess the risk of COVID-19 at an early stage of the financial reporting and audit process. The guidance, therefore, serves to draw preparers' attention to the possible impact of COVID-19 on their businesses, with the consequent financial reporting implications, which they are expected to give particular attention to, all within the framework of existing body of standards. In the meantime, the April 2020 federal government bond auction was oversubscribed this Wednesday after the Debt Management Office offered 60 billion naira across 3 tiers on behalf of the government. A breakdown of the offering by the DMO comprised 20 billion naira each for the 5-year, 15-year, 30-year tenors. The total subscriptions received through the competitive bids for the 3 instruments was 275.67 billion naira, indicating an overall subscription level of 459%. Successful bids were allotted at the rate of 9% for the 5-year, 12% for the 15-year paper and 12.5% for the 30-year bond, all of which are lower than the rates at the March 2020 FGN bond auction. The total amount allotted for competitive bids was 156.06 billion naira across the 3 tenors, while the sum of 20.0 billion naira was allotted through non-competitive bids for the 5-year and 15-year tenors, which brought the total amount allotted from competitive and non-competitive bids to 176.06 billion naira. Meanwhile, the 4th day of the week on the floor of the capital market closed on a bearish note, reflecting the weak sentiments occasioned by the impact of the coronavirus. Here is a graphic view of trading figures. With business news, I'm Chimubi Walter Naji.
Well, thank you, Chimubi, for that report. We appreciate that. Next is newspaper review.
And of course, Bayo TV is right here in the studio to do the usual. Bayo, good to see you.
Good to see
and
you.
And Ellie too.
Yes.
So it means the enforcement of restriction and movement is getting better.
Yes, the task force are on the highway, and the way they are doing it, they are managing it in a better format. Earlier on, especially when they first started, it was tough for people, essential duties coming. It was like having a camel pass through the eye of the needle. But now it's a little bit relaxed. There are a few cars on the road, and
is the eye of the needle wider?
Yeah, but you're welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Kide.
Yeah.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, Chief, get on with
it. Okay, let's begin with the Nation. The Nation newspaper. Let's go from top to bottom. That's what we're starting from. Buhari observe social distancing in Ramadan. That's on page 7. Being fasting, says Sultan. Abuja, Falana, others knock Omahi for barring reporters. Omahi is actually the governor of Ebonyi State. The story is on page 30 of the Nation. MTN Group to reduce stake in Nigerian arm. Get more of that information on page 25 of the Nation. And of course, the lead story this morning on the Nation is Abuja virus patients reject transfer to treatment centers. Not many would like that caption. COVID-19 patients, in my thinking, ought to have been better for that. All right, and of course, it had two riders to that. Minister to invoke law to forcibly move them. Government declares Kano's situation worrisome. All right, and if you look at the table there, that's on the right-hand side of the nation, you will discover, or you will see the COVID-19 global cases as it were, and over 2.5 million people have died globally, and of course, more than 2.5 million have been affected by the virus, but of course, death is about 189 deaths globally, and those recovered is over 742,000 persons have recovered. That is globally now. Talking about Nigerian cases, of course, we've had already that we have 981 cases recorded in Nigeria with 31 deaths. The recovery is about 197. So active cases in Nigeria amounts to 753. It's indeed on the high side. Claire.
Yes, indeed, Kira, and the Daily Sun also has a graphic representation of that, but let me move away from that since you've already talked about it. There are other trending stories on the front page of the Daily Sun, of course, which I know Bayo, would interest Bayo. The lead story is on the health workers. 40 of them test positive for COVID-19. That's the lead story on the front page of the Daily Sun. And just a little, above that, you'll see the caption, Lebanon arrests man who put Nigerian woman on sale. That story, of course, went viral yesterday on the social media. Of course, the man who put the Nigerian woman's picture on the internet for sale, luckily, that man has been arrested. The story, you can read about it. It's on pages 4 and 5. Another worrisome one is just at the earpiece there. COVID-19, China's maltreatment of Nigerians disappointing, and that's coming from the federal government. Yesterday we saw, of course, the Minister of Foreign Affairs talking tough, yesterday, and you could visibly see, his, displeasure over what is happening. Of course, Bayo will speak to that. Another, of course, trending at the bottom of the paper, the postponement of 2020 May-June certificate examinations, that's NAPTEP, and ECOWAS names Buhari COVID-19 champion. Kiran already read that from that paper. And Ramadan, Muslims must pray from home. That's a directive coming from the Presidential Task Force. But there's a picture story there, which is, of course, very instrumental. It's the Nigerian Air Force, NAV, aeronautic evacuation team during the C-130 aircraft COVID-19 simulation, which is part of activities to mark NAV at 56 in Abuja. That happened yesterday. And of course, the other side, that's the team demonstrating the evacuation of coronavirus patients. So that's the outlook of the front page of the Daily Sun. Bayo, quite some interesting and worrisome development.
Yes, worrisome with COVID-19. Yesterday we were lamenting that the 97 cases we reported were quite high. Well, now it appears as if COVID-19 is saying you haven't seen nothing yet. We had 108 cases yesterday, and that have brought the total to 981. So far, we recorded 3 deaths, and now the death tally has come to about 31. Lagos discovered 78 cases, FCT 14, Ogun 5, and Gombe that just joined the fray already has 4, Borno 2, 3. The other ones still had 1 each. There was no case recorded in Kano, not because there are no cases, but because, as you are aware, the Kano Tech Center is scheduled for decontamination, and so probably a test has not continued. In Lagos, the distribution shows that Etiosa has about 47, Ikeja 24, Lagos mainland 11, Alimosho, Agege, Ikorodu, and they all have 1 each. So you can see the area of the concentration, and that is where the health workers are concentrating on the community door-to-door tracing and testing. So far, yes, so far we have had 981 cases, and of all the cases, particularly in Lagos, they are mostly in the age range of 30 to 39. So those who are going with the myth that it is only for the aged, they are on a ruse. They have to be very careful. Those the aged ones, those between 60 and 70 in Lagos, there are only 3 of them that have been so far involved. The percentage too, it shows that 91% are male and about 9% females. There's been no report from Kano because of the issue of the dab. Adamawa has a case, and Adamawa's index case was discovered Wednesday. 84 persons have so far been traced at the contact, and the contact, actually most of them were found from the index person visiting the mosque as well as the correspondence chapel. Can you guess that? It's likely to be our colleague, a journalist. Yes. Meanwhile, in Kano, while there was no test, 419 Almajiris have been sent back to Katsina.
Do we know anything about the first index case in Plateau? You know, how it came about? Travel history, yes, and all that.
I don't have the travel history of that, but what I have is that of the situation about in Katsina, where Almajiri were moved from Kano to Katsina. The secretary to the Kano state government received them, and he says that they are going to camp them in NYSC camp. They will first of all test them. After they are sure, when they are negative, then they will now be sent to their respective domain.
Yes, because yesterday we spoke with the task force chairman from Kano, right, and we have on the issue of removing or rather transporting the Almajiris to other parts of the country at this very crucial period, that we are coping with COVID-19. But he said, look, that it is even the best time to do that, as a way of also dismantling the Almajiris as we know it today. And in Jigawa yesterday, well, they had over 500 of them in Jigawa, which of course they have already, quarantined or isolated, for 2 weeks, just as you just mentioned. For
yes, talking about transportation, a similar thing happened also for Osun. These were about 49 persons who were coming from Côte d'Ivoire, but they were already quarantined in Lagos and tested. When they were certified to be negative, that was when they allowed them to proceed to Osun. It became a problem in Oyo because they were first intercepted, but when it was cleared that they are negative, they were allowed to go on to Osun.
I think what is moving this virus from state to state currently is local travels.
Yes.
Local travels. And when the governors came up yesterday to say, look, that we are going to, stop interstate transport, well, we don't know how effective that is going to be.
They do these travels at night.
Exactly.
Where probably, the task force team will probably have gone, have closed for the day, have gone home. But maybe this is a call for extension of maybe working hours, for those tax force. But a story I'd like Bayo to speak on is the caption that Kiran talked about. Kiran, you heard a caption which suggests some form of stigmatization. Exactly.
Yes. In fact, the Honorable Minister of Health expressed worry about that. And he says that there are some persons who refuse to move to isolation centers. They prefer to remain at home, and that is becoming a challenge. And the Honorable Minister of Health emphasized yesterday that the only way to stop that is that for any persons who test positive to move to an isolation center so that we can have concentrated attention and treatment. And the FCT also, the Minister for FCT, is also showing serious concern. Precisely. There are persons who refuse to move to isolation centers. They prefer to stay at home, and nobody is sure of the level of the isolation, and the danger inherent in that is that they are likely to infect people in the immediate
These are the group of patients who have contributed immensely in
community transmission.
Community transmission. Yes. Because they have works in their homes, they have gardeners, they have cooks, and what have you. Right. So, as a matter of fact, like you mentioned, FCT, the Minister of State FCT actually complained of that when she came on this program 2 weeks ago, that some persons who have travel history are not disclosing that, and it is affecting the work of the task force. Yes. Because one, as soon as they ignite community transmission, we're going to have a serious problem, and that's exactly what has happened.
Kiran, I think there is a need for the authorities concerned to really look deep into the concerns of this, category of persons. You find, during the week, there was this lady from I think Delta State or Warri who had issues with her isolation. So we need to look at the situation. Those in isolation camps, what are the experiences, and why are people refusing to go into isolation camp? This is another instance. But I also want you to talk about the categorization, the use of the word Abuja virus patients. That seems to suggest some form of stigmatization, which is labeling, which is not.
The other area of concern, which also the Honorable Minister of Health emphasized, is the rate at which health workers are getting infected. In an instant, the minister was specific that about 40 health workers have so far been infected. And it is dangerous because these are the people who are the frontline soldiers and tackling these health challenges. In fact, Daily Trust reported that there are 77 health workers that has been infected.
In Nigeria?
Yes.
Well, we've discussed the issue of PPEs, in this program on several occasions.
Personal protective equipment,
since the advent of COVID-19. And assurances have always been that the ones available could take us to some period of time, within a period of time. But then
there are corporate donations now of PPEs.
Exactly. But we're now wondering why all the people on the front line are beginning to get infected. Then that means that perhaps whatever they are using is not effective. Or, of course, we'll be hearing that globally, that persons who are on the front line are being affected. But I'm just wondering, 71% of them, right, currently in Nigeria is high.
Let's quickly look at the editorial so that we can just,
Yes, the editorial is also on COVID-19 lockdown, but it's talking about before easing COVID-19 lockdown. This has been a serious challenge elsewhere globally. America is actually grappling with that. States like Georgia, South Carolina are starting today to open, gradually. Yes, but then that's not going down well with majority of the governors of different states in America. In Germany, for instance, that eased the lockdown a little bit. Some sections of the business community have started functioning. But then, in our own case, what will be the sign that should be easing of COVID-19 lockdown in Nigeria, for instance?
Well, the editorial is concerned about COVID-19. And what it is saying is that the lockdown is a worldwide phenomenon. Apart from the fact that the federal government ordered a lockdown in Lagos, Ogun State, and FCT, most state governments are now forced, because of the circumstance of COVID-19, to occasion also lockdown. Ironically, it is affecting the economy and the social services. And what the editorial is saying that we have to be very careful, because the IMF has already projected 3% drop in GDP. And China alone has got to about 6.8.
I hate to raise my flag. I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's not me.
Time and time they say, wait for no bio.
Thank you. Thank you, Bayo. Do have a lovely weekend.
You too.
And I forgot to wish you Ramadan Kareem.
You too, Ramadan Kareem.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA, Africa's largest TV network. There's no doubt about that. Our next conversation begins immediately after this, of course, break. And today we're looking at, of course, Ramadan in a state of pandemic. Our conversation will begin right now.
Coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is spreading at an alarming rate all over the globe, including Nigeria. With the number of infected persons in Nigeria increasing daily, prevention is better than cure. Coronavirus has no cure. The virus spreads from one person, who affects two persons, and by the time the affected person is isolated, the two persons have affected four, and it keeps spreading. You must take preventive measures to save yourself and that of the people around you. Always wash your hands with soap and water. Put distance between yourself and others. Whenever you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth. Clean and disinfect surfaces. Stay at home if you're sick and contact the proper authorities. Together, we can cut down the spread of the coronavirus. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest TV network.
the cost, still they manage. Why you the stress? Why you the worry? Are you late? Oh yeah. You got everything you need.
You can choose to manage everything else, but not your data. Get more out of life with the new Airtel data plans. Dial *141# today. Data is life.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Welcome, dear. Have you washed your hands?
Inside my house again. This thing not the key black man.
I don't know if it's misinformation or poor hygiene that will kill you first. Coronavirus is real, and good hygiene practice will save your life. Oh. Anyway, no hand washing, no eating.
I will not take care of it. How's one of the parents? Coronavirus is real and it's on the rise. But you can help yourself and help others to be safe. Remember, we can stop the spread. It's in your hands.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, in view of the COVID-19 pandemic we are currently challenged with, we at Al-Habibiyah Islamic Society enjoin all Muslims to adhere strictly to government directives geared towards stopping the spread of the virus. These measures include the stay-at-home order, washing of hands with soap and water, using hand sanitizers where water is not available, and other hygiene measures. We remind you all of the words of Allah in the Holy Quran, chapter 2, verse 195, which says, "And do not throw yourselves with your own hands into destruction." We also remind you of the hadith of the noble Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, which says, "Do not cause harm or return harm." Please stay at home and stay safe with continuous dua. This message is from Project Itfine of Al-Habibiyah Islamic Society. Al-Habibiyah Islamic Society, from Allah to you, a light.
I just don't understand this coronavirus thing. Is it real?
See, coronavirus, known as COVID-19, it's a global problem and has killed thousands of people in China, Italy, Spain, UK, US, and other countries around the world.
Okay. Now, why are they saying that we should stay home?
Because if you go outside and get in contact with someone who is infected, you become infected and then come back home, affect your family. That's how it happens in other countries.
Now, please, help me explain what this social distance is all about.
See, as we are now, the virus travels through the air and by touch. We must maintain 6-foot distance at all times.
Oh, so it's not by washing my hands with soap and water or hand sanitizer that is only important?
Washing of our hands regularly is very important. But we must come together and fight this virus like we did Ebola. It is our responsibility to each other.
Staying at home is the most responsible thing to do. Please, learn a new skill. Be a better version of yourself. That's what I spend my time doing. Prevention, they say, is better than cure. I beg, make we sit down for house. I know some of us want to get back to socializing, but if we don't sit down for house, no good feel happen. Please, stay safe and stay responsible.
Right, if you've just joined in, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. This Thursday in the 9th month of the Ramadan. That's, of course, according to the lunar calendar, and it's happening right here on the network service of the NTA. Our conversation this morning, of course, borders on COVID-19 and Ramadan fast. And to set the tone for our conversation, let's take a look at this background put together by Musbah Dan Wahab.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
A call to prayer from the Islam holiest temple, the Grand Mosque in Saudi Arabia. It went wide and many heard it. but only the ranking leaders could yield to the core. Not even the usual hundreds of thousands of people who come circumambulating the cube-shaped Kaaba are around. It's a situation the global reality has dawned on places of worship around the world. A reality brought closer home. The National Mosque, Abuja, is deserted. It beats imagination, but that is the reality staring at Muslims in the face as this year's Ramadan fast begins.
Ramadan is prescribed upon all the believers, Muslims, the followers of the Prophet Muhammad, as it was prescribed upon those people before Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
As sacred and expected as the holy month is, the usual excitement with which it is received is being corroded by coronavirus. Following suspension of Jumat services, public lectures, common breaking of fast, and other gatherings are part of what Muslims would miss in this Ramadan. It is an imminent caution that His Eminence Sultan of Sokoto Alhaji Muhammad Saad Abubakar has declared on the platform of Jamaatul Nasirul Islam. Seemingly, the call for caution is unfortunately overwhelming cause for religious obligation, and the search for solution to the common enemy has beclouded the search for the crescent. In few hours, though, the crescent of Ramadan will be sighted, signaling the beginning of this year's fasting. A Ramadan with difference, as the feasting in group to unite the Ummah will not take place. The voluntary prayers after the break of fast will not be there. The night prayers to seek emancipation from hell will not be there. The seclusion in the last 10 days of the month in search of a night of majesty will not be there. One thing will, however, be there: faith and believe that Allah will accept whatever is done in His cause, as He alone has the power to heal the world of a pandemic that has held it captive.
All right, Mosbao, thank you for that background report. Well, we are not going to allow COVID-19 pandemic to, of course, overwhelm the very reason for the season, which is spiritual rejuvenation. And this morning, to discuss COVID-19 and Ramadan, I would like to, first of all, introduce Sheikh Mohammed Nora Khalid, Imam Apo Legislative Quarters Mosque here in Abuja. It's a pleasure to have you here with us as always.
Thank you very much for having me.
And we also have here in the studio Fuad Adeyemi. He's the National Chief Imam Al-Habibiyya Islamic Society. We're glad to have you as well on the show.
Thank you so much, Ramadan.
All right, it is also my pleasure to introduce Dr. Musa Laufe, also a familiar face in Good Morning Nigeria, and his Chief Imam Ansaruddin Mosque, also in Abuja. Dr. Laufe, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
And we take our introduction to Kaduna Network Center, and there we are joined by Dr. Khalid Abubakar Aliu, who is the Secretary General, Jamaatul Nasirul Islam, GNI. We appreciate your company.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria.
Gentlemen.
Yes, today we have religious leaders here in the studio, and these are men of God who are here to discuss Ramadan fast, one of the pillars of Islam, which is now going to be celebrated amid COVID-19. So our conversation will be on the significance of Ramadan fast and how this very important festivity will be celebrated within this period that the world is passing through a pandemic. I'd like us to start this conversation with Fuad Adeyemi, who was also here with us a couple of weeks ago when we discussed religious festivity amid COVID-19. Let's begin by asking you to explain to our viewers once more, as we have always known, the significance of Ramadan fast and what it means to a Muslim, and of course even non-Muslims alike.
Well, alhamdulillah, we thank Allah that the blessed month of Ramadan, we are still alive despite all the challenges which the entire world is facing. We thank God and we pray that Allah spares our life. Well, to us as Muslims, the importance of Ramadan comes from the glorious Quran itself. When Allah says, do this, the mere fact that is our Creator that is telling us there is no questioning or no any research to why God has asked us to do this. When the manufacturer of a car says when you get to 6,000 kilometers, you change the engine oil, you change the battery, you now say, why should you be given such an instruction? So if you decide not to do it, you should know it's at your own peril. Then beside that, it is also a time that we clean our soul, we clean our hearts. You have the opportunity of cleaning your body. You have the opportunity of cleaning your house. You have the opportunity of cleaning your environment, even your clothes. But the only thing that is most important in your life is actually your soul, your heart. And that is the only opportunity we have to clean our heart. It is during the month of Ramadan. I think we need to understand that Ramadan is the only time when you are conscious of the beingness of the Supreme Being with you all the time. And how do we get this? You have your room, you have your house, you control everything in your house. You might decide to eat and lock the door. When you eat and you come out, you clean your mouth, say, today's fasting is very hard. But you won't do that for one thing. You know wherever you are, God is there with you.
Okay, let's also bring in Sheikh Mohammed Noura Khalid, Imam of Abu Legislative Quarters. Sheikh, I'd just like for you, in line with the question Kieran asked about significance, talk us through the origin of Ramadan in relation to, the retreat of Prophet Muhammad to the Al-Hira cave.
Well, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. It is very important to note that all the religions have a kind of fasting in them. That is why the Quran said fasting has been prescribed for you as did to those before you. And that is why when the Prophet ﷺ came, before even he started receiving revelation, he was found of going to Cave Hira to circulate himself and to reflect about the relationship between man and God and what are the possible ways of shunning away sins and purifying oneself soul. That is why Ramadan was chosen to be the beginning of revelation to him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to him Archangel Gabriel to give him the message while he was circulating himself in the cave of Hira. And this brought a relationship between the revelation of the Quran and the circulation of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the cave of Hira. That is to say, there is a very strong connection between the Quran, which was revealed in Ramadan, and the month of Ramadan, or the fasting in the month of Ramadan. So this is the relationship.
Okay, quite interesting. Now, Dr. Musa Love, along the same line, of significance, in every religious festival, there's always a process. I know in Ramadan you have fast, you have breaking of fast, and what have you. Could you just, take us through the process of Ramadan, how a true Muslim should observe Ramadan and get the ultimate result from God?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we congratulate ourselves for being in the month of Ramadan. You see, the month of Ramadan has been stated in the Holy Quran, and when Allah said, Ba'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Shahrul Ramadan, alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. In the month of Ramadan, That is the month in which the Holy Quran was revealed to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. And Allah has given us the opportunity to fast in the month of Ramadan. And what did he say? He said, Sumu li ruhiyatihi. Prophet says, Sumu li ruhiyatihi. Wafturu li ruhiyatihi. Fa'in gum alaykum al-hilal. Fakmil al-iddata sha'ban 30 yawman. Fast when the moon of Ramadan has been sighted. And you break the fast when the moon of Ramadan too has been concluded. And if you are unable to see the moon because of the cloud, make sure you count the month of Shaban. When it is 30, then you begin Ramadan. So we can now see that in the month of Ramadan, there are a lot of things that Muslims should take a look into. Number one, the fear of Almighty Allah. And then you should know that when you are fasting, nobody rewards you but Almighty Allah. And at the end of it all, then by the time you are breaking your fast, there are a lot of things that, brings Ramadan to be more meaningful. Because those who are poor, those who are rich, those who are known and unknown, everybody will come together under one umbrella. Even when you have dates at hand, then you give to your friends, please, can we break together? So that unity is part of what Islam is teaching us in the month of Ramadan. And it makes us to move closer to Almighty Allah in terms of asking for forgiveness, in terms of the recitation of the Holy Quran, and some other good things that are expected of a good Muslim.
All right, thank you. Of course, Dr. Laufe, let's turn our attention to our Kaduna Network Center. Dr. Khalid Abubakar Liu, Secretary General, Jama'atu Nasr Islam. I know that, or we do know that the month of Ramadan, or Ramadan fast, is one of the critical pillars of Islam, one of the 5 pillars of Islam. But beyond that, can you, enlighten us on the critical rights associated with this month?
Thank you. First of all, one of the most critical rights in this month is the fasting itself, which forms one of the 5 fundamental basic principles of Islam, which every Muslim must have to believe. This is one. 2 is the month in which the glorious Quran was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in so many textual verses from the glorious Quran. Allah the Most High said, we have indeed revealed it in that blessed night, the night of power. And the month of Ramadan is in which the Quran was revealed. One of the critical, important rites to be observed in this month is, after the fasting, is to commit oneself to the rendition of the recitation of the glorious Quran over and over again, with a very important intention of pondering, reflecting, understanding the teachings therefrom, in order to afford you the opportunity to really, through the next 11 months before the next Ramadan, you have taken in lesson on how to relate with the society in terms of truthfulness, sincerity, support, stakeholdership, building the family, training the children, love, care, efforts, hard work. The glorious Quran will afford you this opportunity. 2, 3, one of the critical rites observed in this month is the congregational prayer of Taraweeh, which we do after breaking the fast, after the sunset prayer, and the next prayer after the sunset, which is Isha. After it, then is the Salatu at-Taraweeh, that supererogatory prayer, 13 rak'ats or 11 rak'ats or 23 rak'ats or 25 rak'ats, as the case may be, which forms one of the most important, significant rites which Muslims all over the world, some of whom Allah has given the financial wherewithal, pay to go for Umrah in Hajj, either the first 10 days or the middle 10 days or the last 10 days, which unfortunately, amid COVID-19, all these important places are locked down because of fear of contamination of the pandemic killer disease of COVID-19, which we fervently pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us relief. This is another one. The other one is the month in which charity is given out, dishing out in terms of food, in terms of money. One of the cardinal principles of Islam among the 5 is giving charity, zakat. That is 2.5% of your total earning. And it is you who is supposed to really take it. It's not given to the imam. No, it's you who will now look at the categories of the poor, the needy, the indigent, the wayfarer, and those who, and so on, categories, 8 of them. Then you're supposed to take these 2.5% out of your own earning. If you have 1 million, 2.5 of it is 25,000, and you give it out, and you do it conscientiously with commitment that it is not for show. Give it as though your left hand does not know what your right hand is also giving. It's a time that another critical aspect of worship is the seclusion. Seclusion is to seclude yourself in the mosque, or as the case may be, in this trying time of the pandemic, you seclude yourself in one corner in your room to reflect about yourself. Me as a being, human being, as a Muslim, who am I? What have I done? Am I in tandem, in consonance with the teachings of Islam as exemplified by the Prophet of Islam? Am I really truthful? Am I really caring and loving to my family? My wife, do I support her? Do I care for her? Do I have good words for her? My children, and so on. Am I training them the way I'm supposed to train them? The neighborhood, am I kind to them? In my working place, am I diligent? And do I keep to the stipulations of the conditions of the service where I am? Is my earning lawful? Is there all these things? Then you are supposed to do this in seclusion. You shed tears, you cry, you feel sorry in a solitary situation in seclusion, asking Allah the Almighty, the God, to help you and to guide you. And I think there is an addition to these critical aspects of worship which we will do, which I urge each and every Muslim from the point of view of the platform of Jamaat Nasrul Islam, that we must put a special prayer, special invocation, special complaint to God, for God the Almighty to protect our country against this horrendous pandemic which has crippled the world to its knees. Economies have failed, governments have failed, science and technology has failed. Everything is now put to zero, and everybody doesn't know. The scientists are clueless. The medical experts are clueless. Everybody seems to be clueless. Therefore, we should add as a critical aspect of worship in this month to put this in prayer for our country, for our states, for our families, and for those who are infected, for God to grant them the quickest relief, and for the whole world, for God to provide relief. And that it is a critical moment now, that out of the little you have, even if you don't have an earning which will afford you the opportunity to give out the poorate, the charity, the zakah, try how little you have to really extend a gesture of kindness, of pity, of love, and care to the downtrodden, to the common man.
We'd like to appreciate your contribution, Dr. Khalid Abubakar Aliyu, Secretary General of Jamaatul Nasir Islam. You've spoken at length, and of course, you and other guests who have also spoken have really explained, without reservation, the meaning of Ramadan, the significance of Ramadan, and what is expected of a true Muslim during this period. But I want to stay with you and ask you a second question, but that has to do with the present circumstance globally. What we know today in the world is that there's a new world order which is precipitated by COVID-19. Now you have outlined all the critical rights of Ramadan, the month of Ramadan. You talked about building a family and building the society and other things that you explained. Now, in the present circumstance, considering that all the rights of Ramadan period, they're all congregational in nature, and people are wondering how adherents of Islam are going to cope with the COVID-19 situation. Now, what would be your advice to the majority of your followers, both the educated and the uneducated, to understand the present circumstance and, of course, celebrate Ramadan with caution?
Thank you very much. I think we have done a groundwork for that, and I think Muslims have adapted to the situation. In Islam, there are the normal workings of affairs of man, and there are exceptions in terms of things not being done in the normal way they are being done. One, according to the guidance of the glorious Quran, is that we should spiritually and Quranically adapt to these situations. One of it, in the glorious Quran, God the Almighty says, "O you who believe, take your precautions. Take your precautions." This is one. Elsewhere, he said, "Put not yourself into jeopardy while God is merciful to you." This is the second one. Another one is that the Prophet of Islam, peace be upon him, in his wise sayings, says, in terms of epidemics, plagues, and pandemics, when you hear of any pandemic, if you are not within that vicinity or country or state, enter not. While if you are in and maybe already infected, don't come out to infect other people. There are all these teachings which project and which we teach the teeming population of the Muslims in this country, and our distinguished Muslim scholars. You have there in the studio our distinguished imams, all of them, and I assure you, in their sermons, these the things being projected. I urge Muslims to patiently persevere, one, and to adapt to the situations. That is why under the platform of JNI, the Sultan has asked that all these congregations be suspended, and that in terms of one of the critical aspects of worship which we do is attending tafsir sessions in the mosque, which today we have another window, another alternative. We have the ICT windows. We can go live streaming. We have the Instagram. We have even podcast. We have short videos. We have endless platforms within the social media through which we can reach the Muslims congregations. And I bet you scholars are already in the social media doing this. And in terms of that night vigil prayer, which I told you, man, the head of the family, can lead the family in observing the same prayer at home. Therefore, there's nothing that is impossible. I urge using this platform of the NTA and re-emphasize the need for the Muslims to Islamically adapt to the situation. It is temporary. It will come to pass. It will be a history in a few months, let us adapt and let us do the right thing. Thank you.
Dr. Khalid Abubakar Aliyu, Secretary General, Jamaatul Nasri Islam. We'll just pause you for a while. Distinguished imams here in the studio. I know this conversation is, looking at how we can observe the Ramadan fast, of course, within this period of lockdown. I know you have a responsibility of explaining to your followers, especially the very peasant, adherent, the fact that observing or complying with the protocol, containment protocols put in place by the federal government will not mean losing, some of the spiritual rewards that will accrue from, of course, participating in the rites. So for that reason, I just like us to look at, again, the evolution of, the congregational aspects of Ramadan, especially the Taraweeh. I ask this because from what I discovered that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, started the nightly prayers, in the confine of the mosque alone, and because he wanted to, prevent the followers from seeing that practice as, a congregational obligation, he now retreated. So when did this rite become congregational obligation? Let me take you, Imam Adeyemi.
I'm happy you actually coming to the evolution of socialization of Taraweeh, which is a story that is not too common, and I'm happy and I'm impressed about that. If you look at the history of the evolution of things actually in Islam, you discover that, to me, what is happening now, I call it second chance for the Muslim. It's a very big and good positive opportunity for Muslims to actually reflect, where are we coming from, where are we, and what have we not been doing correctly before. You actually mentioned it well. When the Prophet ﷺ was doing Taraweeh, people began to join him, and at a point in time, he did not come out to join them again, to let them know that if I should continue with this, it can cause so many other things. I think this is a very, very significant thing. To us as Muslims, nothing is new. All these things which we are facing, it is for us to actually start to go back to the pristine Islam, the way we actually used to do Islam. Like what Sheikh said, most of us have failed as leaders, as a family member, with thinking that we are too busy out there, we are doing that out there, and we have abandoned our family. This is the time now that we have to make that correction, and that's why I say this is a second chance. Most of us don't even know the way our children pray. We don't even know how they eat. To us as Muslims, eating food is not just saying Bismillah Rahman Rahim. You have to start with the one that is close to you. You have to give others consideration in what they are eating. It's so many things that are involved, and when you are also eating, you consider so many things. Then the what you can say, the communion between the family, which is no more there. So this is another opportunity for us to actually go back. And most of the things like the iftar, which we do, most people actually doing it for showing off. They want to show class. I'm sorry, I have to say this. You need to do this thing. The Prophet ﷺ has told us that your neighbors are much more important to you. How many of us used to take care of our neighbors? The Prophet, according to Islam, the 40 houses by your right, by your left, front and back constitutes your neighbor. How many of us know 1, 2, 3 houses from our houses? What are we taking? What have we done for them? Is it not just we want to be here so that people know, hey, they are very good people, hey, they are very rich? That is not the issue.
Just to also emphasize what you're saying, and for clarity purposes, the Prophet himself did not make any of those rites, especially the Taraweeh, which is very important. He didn't make it congregational, in a congregational thing. It was actually the first caliph that did that after the death of, I don't know. Sorry?
No, the second caliph.
The second caliph. Yeah. Okay.
So with the
so
thing,
I have an issue.
The issue now that what has happened now, that's what I'm saying. It is not a new thing to us. In fact, that's why I use the word second chance. That we have to go back home the way the Prophet used to do it. We have to do it now and sit down in the midst of a family, do things together, and even when you perform Taraweeh or Tahajjud, as the case may be with your family, some scholars says it has much more reward than even going out, because it is in the night. Whatever prayer you want to do, it has to be with your family. And that is why the Subuhi prayer, the voluntary prayer which you do in Subuhi prayer, that is the early morning prayer, it is recommended that you do it at home, so that when you want to go and observe Subuhi prayer, that is the early morning prayer, it's only the congregational, the main one that you go and say in congregation. So all other ones should be done at your home. This is the opportunity for us now to now go back to pristine Islam. And I will also repeat it, this is the second chance Almighty Allah is giving us because of this pandemic. It's a plus for us and not a negative.
Okay, great. You know, from all indication, from what I've explained, you know, and the background, you know, given to you by my colleague Claire, it does show that some religious practices have metamorphosed into becoming congregational, associational. You know, people want to do that together. You said some people want to show off or something. Fine and good, but then myself, who's not a Muslim, I normally enjoy breaking of fast with my Muslim colleagues. You know, yeah. So I have to be frank with you. You know, it's congregational. I enjoy sitting with them and breaking fast. You know, for me, it's not just fun, but also a kind of religious observation as well. I want to bring us to the issue of what Karl Marx said about religion, which is the opium of the masses. We have COVID-19, but people are still living in denial. Some don't even believe that it exists. And not both Muslims and Christians, some persons don't believe it exists. And it's always difficult to convince some faithful to begin to behave differently from what he or she must have been taught over the years. And now that we are coping with COVID-19 and trying to see how we can observe our religious activities, without offending God, because in fact, if you allow the COVID-19 to overwhelm our religious practice, of course, it means that we don't understand God in the first place. So I want to bring you in, Sheikh Mohammed Noor Khalid, in this. How challenging has it been to convince the adherents of Islam to understand the new concept brought about by COVID-19 with respect to observing holy or religious activities?
Well, it is very challenging because it is difficult to change man from one situation to another, to shift him from what is normal for him to a new phenomenon which is abnormal to him. Many people think that we have connived with the government to prevent them from enjoying the rights of religion. And as such, it is very difficult and it is a very tedious task to bring them back to their normal senses and understand that this is a pandemic fighting the entire world. I often give them example. If you say that people want to change the shape of Islam or prevent Muslims from using democracies, why can't you consider Easter, a Good Friday and Easter Monday? It was not held for the first time in St. Peter's. And this is what the Christians respect, or many Christians respect. And consider the Grand Mosque of Saudi Arabia. It was shut down. And people are not going for Umrah and for Hajj. And why can't you remember that the Prophet ﷺ himself was once prevented from going to Umrah? He has traveled for a long time, and he went there. On reaching the territory of Mecca, the leadership of Mecca prevent him from entering, and his people were surprised to see that he agreed to go back. Even Umar challenged him. How dare could you agree? How can you accept this injustice? He told him that you don't understand. And that is what we are doing now, telling people to understand. Even I'm happy to hear from the Imam that this is a second chance to reflect. look, the burning issue is Taraweeh, congregational prayer, daily congregational prayer, and the tafsir that we do. Okay, now if you ask a Muslim, is there a program called tafsir in Saudi Arabia, in Syria, in other countries? It is only in Africa, probably in the West Africa, that you have a program called tafsir. And people think that it is also a pillar of the religion because of ignorance. So this is a chance for us as ulama to reflect and to reintroduce people to the real normal teachings of Islam. Okay. This Taraweeh that you are shouting about, that how will there be no Taraweeh? Is it a compulsory prayer? It was normally a personal activity, you and your family at home. But now we have made it that if you can't do it in the mosque, it is no more there.
Okay, I like where you stopped. So, you know, I just also like for us to look at the other side, because the essence of this program is to give, you know, the followers, you know, a sense of understanding of what is happening. Some of the rites, the iftar, which is the breaking of the fast, it's usually, you know, extended to, like my friend here, my colleague Kirian, to friends, families, and all well-wishers. The zakat, you know, the zakat al-fitr, which is also, you know, done at the end of the Ramadan fast. These are, you know, tax that, you know, compels on the adherents to do physically. You know, you are expected to physically carry out this task, extend your zakat to people who need them and all that. Is anything lost by not physically carrying out these activities within this period of lockdown? Let me bring in Dr. Musa Olaofe.
Well, alhamdulillah, with all explanations we have been hearing, we can see that life is very, very important. Our existence is very, very essential. If you are alive, you can do so many things. But if you are not there, other people will do it. So that is what we should know, that going to the mosque, if a leader or, you know, consensus of ulama, they said this is not good enough for you at this very point in time, stay home, stay at your houses, observe your prayers there, do everything you need to do. Then by the time you do that, you will see that you will still be the one to benefit from it, because it is when you are healthy, when you are energetic, you can come out and observe prayers. You can come out and do tafsir to people to understand you. And don't forget that what Imam said, that, well, we need to reflect. We need to take ourselves back to what has been happening in the olden days. So we are taking things for granted. When they say things can injure you, say, let me try it. So and see what has happened to those who have been injured before. Then we are killing ourselves gradually. So, and that is why it is very, very essential to educate people. Once they told you that you are hearing death and COVID-19, this one died today, this one died in a particular state, and that one is enough for every one of us to take a look into this pandemic, that it is real. It is real in such a way that if it happens to you, what will you do? And we are seeing people dying. Why can't we caution ourselves? And we see before that, you see, in Islam, God has already told us that we should always clean ourselves, wash your hands, brush your teeth, do so many things, you be in state of cleanliness all the time. Now we are coming back to it now. Some people will eat, they will not even bother to wash their hand, they will continue doing their life because they have never seen the difficulties of the pandemic. Now we are seeing it. Either you go to the mosque to perform Taraweeh, or you stay at home to do everything. It has happened in some states, in some countries. Take for example the America, despite the fact that they have everything. Take example for in Italy, UK, they have all this equipment, even more than Nigerians, that they can use to protect themselves because they have been very careful. How many times do we go to hospital in Nigeria? How many doctors do we have that look after us? But Allah is taking care of Nigerians. But if this ones has come and you are witnessing it, it's better for us to take a look into it and take it as a second chance so that we can be able to sit tight and know what we are doing. Because imams everywhere, they have been saying it. You know, there are a lot of ICT compliance out there that these lectures, you can do it on YouTube, you can do it on WhatsApp, you can do it on Instagram. People will listen to you and they will enjoy it.
Thank you. Claire has just notified me. We would like Dr. Khalid Abubakar Aliyu to also speak to what Olaofe has just dropped, the pick from that, and also take this along with that. I have witnessed Ramadan fast celebration, for over 10 years now, in Abuja, and usually towards the end of it, it goes with a celebration with a pomp and ceremony, and people are expected to come together and celebrate, go to families, give to zakat and what have you, which I have, as a part that I enjoyed myself. Now, what I want you to add to that is, how are Muslims supposed to manage the situation now? We were talking about palliatives. So we are on lockdown. People are not, doing their usual daily jobs as usual. So it's going to also be biting right in the pocket. And how would you advise Muslims to handle the situation generally, based on the on lockdown and the usual way Ramadan is celebrated?
Thank you. Let me begin before answering this question that, of course, it is difficult to deal with human beings. One philosopher said the behavior of a human being is unpredictable simply because it is free. Therefore, but I want to assure you, I think only just a very insignificant number within the Muslim leadership who are still arguing or dragging, and I don't think they make any influence. They are not even noticed. It's only trying to show oneself that yes, I argue, baseless argument, empty arguments. This aside, now coming back to this question as an addition, of course there are ways. In my in one of the submissions I made, that we must adapt to the situations. Of course, it is time where palliative becomes so important and so necessary. But there are ways. If it is the zakat, the percentage you remove out of your earning when it reaches the amount you are supposed to give, of course. We have e-banking. Those you want to donate this charity to, you know them, and you can just give them a call. Can you send me your account number? And then you send to him what Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has given you to send. This is really indeed very simple and easy. And during the lockdown, there are days in which the lockdown is relaxed. 2 days or hours within the neighborhood, within even those who are not within the neighborhood, whom you know, and you have penciled you want to give. You can drive to their houses and give, or you can ask them to come to your house and collect and go back. It is simple. There's no problem. And I think this is a trying time. And we must really do as the medical advice really mandates, and it is simple. Well, of course, you said the end of the fasting, the ceremony, and so on. Of course, it can be low kids, and you can do it with your family. And I think the beginning of this ceremony starts with the family. And if you think until you go out and make a show, then I think you have misunderstood the even concept of the Salah celebration. The Salah celebration starts with the family. And I tell you, that is why you find those who have the financial wherewithal buy new dresses for themselves or the family, for the children, and so on and so forth. It is with the family. It is only that you go out on the Eid day to perform just 2 voluntary or supplicatory prayers, and you come back to the house, you receive visitors and so on and so forth. But this is a time of emergency. It is a special time which we really play the game according to the rules, and we should really be careful of these big congregations. We must practice this social distancing. There's no problem. All these things are possible. Even for those, okay, suppose you say, okay, not all the indigent and the downtrodden and the peasants or the common men don't have bank accounts. Of course, then you can drive to their places, wait for me, or come to my house and collect. It solves the problem. For those with bank accounts, you can transfer. For the physical feeding of the Zakatul Fitr, you can drive or you can ask the person to come and collect. There's no any problem. I think it is okay.
Dr. Khalid Abubakar Aliyu, Secretary General, Jamaatul Nasrul Islam, thank you. Distinguished Imams, let's just pause you all for a while. Take a short break. When we come back, you've touched on very important aspect, palliative, but we also looked at other aspects of Ramadan fast. Don't go away.
Despair. Our country, Nigeria, needs us now more than ever. We stand a chance to save our great country, Nigeria. A chance to rise up from this pandemic stronger and better. What will be the gain if we do not learn from other countries and observe the lockdown to stop the further spread of the virus? If we loosen our guards and allow this virus doom our very existence, then what have we gained? This is the call to every Nigerian to unite as one and stop the spread of this deadly virus. Stay at home and stay safe. Remember, the virus doesn't move unless we move. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Getting around heartburn and indigestion can be tricky if you eat too much. Eat food that is too spicy or greasy, or lie down after eating. Heartburn and indigestion could always be around the corner. When they come, be prepared with Gaviscon Double Action. It works within 3 minutes and lasts up to 4 hours. Gaviscon Double Action. Many causes, one solution. Nigerians, coronavirus is dangerous. It can kill. When you see this sign, high fever, cough, shortness of breath, drowsiness, pneumonia, don't panic, don't hide, don't embark in self-medication. Promptly visit the nearest medical facility. Report all cases to the nearest hospital. Prevention is key. Avoid contact with infected persons. Avoid crowded areas as much as possible. Wash your hands regularly. Use hand sanitizers. Your life is precious. Stay alive. Live long, live right. This message is sponsored by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture and the Nigerian Film Corporation. Nigerian Film Corporation, powering possibility.
Over the past few seasons, Airtel Touching Lives has helped to empower and uplift thousands of Nigerians. And this season was no different.
People are really suffering.
I still have a hope.
I know that God doesn't leave things halfway.
Thank you to all our viewers for inviting us into your homes and sharing in our journey as we continue to change lives.
As a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19. A corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 2255 4272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
Wetin be this coronavirus thing? Na true? You see this coronavirus will be COVID-19. Now the whole world palava. and e don dey kill many people for China, Italy, UK, US, Spain, and even for other countries dem.
Okay, wetin come be the reason wey dem say make everybody tanda for house?
Na because if e dey waka pium go carry am from person wey don get am, you go carry come give your family dem. Na so the thing take dey kill other people for other country.
Okay, wetin come be that social distancing sef?
You see social distance? Now make we no come close because this thing na from air and touch now we dey contact am. We suppose dey at least 6 foot away from each other every time.
So okay, no be only to wash your hand and to sanitize them alone.
Make we no take this washing of hand thing take play but make we come together, join hand as we take pursue Ebola, pursue this coronavirus. Make we be each other keepers now.
All right, thank you for joining us once again. You're watching Good Morning Nigerian, the network service. We have a number of tweets. Hello, Kirian.
Yeah, let's take one or two questions because I'd like Ademi to talk on this issue of palliative, because we have what he calls the Al-Habibia Food Bank, and how are the beneficiaries going to fare this time around? And generally speaking on palliative, our guest in Kaduna spoke a short while ago about that. How will it be? Already you have a congregation, you have a platform, that enables you to reach out to people under normal circumstances. Now that we are on normal circumstance, how is that going to fare?
Well, naturally it's a challenge, but I think what makes a man is to be able to adapt and change to the present circumstance you find yourself. Well, initially when this thing started, with all humility, we are the first to even lock our mosque even before the government announced the lockdown, because we saw it coming. We have started distribution of raw food to the people around. The program guy was talking about is what we call Alabia Food Bank. The program started about 15 years ago, and with all humility, the United States of America especially created an award for the organ called American Ambassador on Humanitarian Services in 2012.
Yes, I think you talked about that in one of our editions of this program. You mentioned that, yes. Kinsley and I once said that.
Yes, and also last year in Namibia, another award was also given to the organization in Namibia. Based on this, why I'm telling you this is, I want to see the background of actually what we do and the challenge we are going to face this year. Yes, we have seen it coming. And incidentally, we have people who are proactive, especially the chairman of the committee. First and foremost, they've started, FCT minister gave Muslims and Christians a lot of materials. The one that got to our area, let's say they gave us like 10 something. So we added like 60 to distribute.
Are you working as a group? Because I know Imam Dr. Musa Alafa is also Chief Imam Ansaruddin Mosque in Abuja. Sheikh Nura here is also Imam Abu. Are you working as a group?
No,
individually.
There is one in which we work as a group. That's why I said the FCC minister gave the imams and the Christians money to do certain things, which incidentally most of us were also part of that. But the one I'm telling you, the one is telling you is Al-Habibia Food Bank is peculiar to Al-Habibia. But when I say peculiar, that does not mean it's only Al-Habibia that is doing it. It's for every human being, not just even Muslim, for all Christians that can also come.
Because of time, we'd just like you to fast forward and tell us how you are helping to bridge the gap in terms of palliative.
Now we have started giving raw food, we package it. Just 2-3 days ago, we have started sending financial support to the people around that we have their database. We have been giving them money. Even as I'm sitting down here, I've seen some other things other people sent, which I'm also going to transfer to the committee who are in charge, and it's going to reach as many as we could. But we are avoiding this social distancing thing. We are not cooking directly in the mosque the way we used to do, but we are having so many.
Are you giving every member, or is there a template, for determining, those who really need this palliative?
Yes, those who really need the palliative, not just every member, because it's also announced in our platform. Even some members the money we are giving is actually donated by our members. So it's not a special money. So those who don't need it, they will not even request for it. They will rather add more.
Okay, thank you. The important thing is to ensure that it gets to persons who need it. Now we have.
Hold on, Kiran. Let's take this question. You started the question and it's very good. Okay. So let it go around and then we come and take the tweets. Imam Noura Khalid. In terms of palliatives, how are you also bridging the gap? A lot of people, say they are, flouting the rules, the lockdown rules, because they don't have, much to feed. And we see in Abuja a lot of, street, beggars. So how are you bridging this gap?
Well, it's a very good question, because we reach out for, the well-to-do, those who have, to help the less privileged. And we made a lot of voice to tell the government that, yes, they are doing something, but they have to do more, especially in terms of supervision. You give out money, you sign out that money should go to the poor. But how are you sure that that money is reaching the people, the targeted people? This is a problem.
So what is the role of religious leaders? Because I know that the FCT, it says religious leaders, are part of the team.
I'm sorry, let me quickly chip in, because this issue of palliatives in FCT, yes, the government has very good intention. Many will actually try, but there are a lot of challenges with it. When the religious leaders was to be part of it, but when they are going, they are planning, they cut religious leaders, they cut them away from what they are doing. So
and that is why I said there must be supervision, because why do some government official try to cut out the religious leaders from the system? Because they want to hide something, and the leadership don't know. And that is the importance of having the religious leaders in the system, so that they will now know that, yes, our members have gotten the message. The first money given by the FCT minister was given to the less privileged, because it was through the religious leaders. But now what is going on, the religious leaders are unaware.
Well, when good policies are put in place, we always have this difficulty of implementing it. Even with this little one, I call it little because it's a bit complex. Yeah. But of course, we have societies, we have communities, and we know ourselves. We have community leaders, we have religious leaders. So it will be easy to identify persons who are in need. It's not even difficult to do. But the point is, when it comes to the issue of implementing things, we get issues. A lot of please, Chief Imam Ansarudin Mosque. Did you participate at any level, in terms of the issue of, this palliative from government at all? If no, what did you see happen that you feel shouldn't have happened?
Well, I have to be on the same page with our imams, because, sincerely speaking, none of us are part of the system, in terms of this palliative. But what individuals, organizations are doing is very, very important. Like Ansarudin in Abuja, we have done the same thing. We've reached to all our members, we have their debtors, and then we do call them times without numbers that will ask about their well-being. And not only that, even the Ansarudin as the national body has donated a very huge amount of materials to the federal government. In fact, if you go to Ansarudin, it's still there. So we've written to them, they are coming to pick it. It's part of our contribution. We did that in Lagos, we are doing this in Abuja too, because the Ansarudin believe that a society of 90-something years believe that what is happening is not new to them. They have to support others so that we carry this assignment very...
Are you doing it for other states and the federation as well? Is this just Lagos and Abuja?
They do the same. Because Ansarudin is everywhere. Even the US, they do the same. So, and what we are saying here is that please, we should try our possible best. When government is, when it is time now for election, they will reach to the imams please pray for us. Don't forget us in the election. Now, when it comes to palliative now, we are being sidelined, which is not good enough. Because
all right, Dr. Musa Laufet, thank you. I'm sure the relevant authorities have heard you. Let's quickly take our tweets, and then when we come back after the tweets, we'll just take our final, questions for our guest. Kieran?
Yeah.
All right, you want me to start?
Go ahead.
Steve Bond 007, that's interesting, tweets, Saudi Arabia has suspended congregational prayers to this historical period. I wonder why some Nigerians would want to do something contrary.
All right, Chris Simeon says, as Ramadan fast begins, I urge every Muslim faithful to pray fervently, calling on Allah to have mercy on us and heal our land. As you perform the religious obligation, obey the civil authority and the laid down rules for this critical period. Stay safe and adhere to COVID-19 precautionary measures.
Citizen 001, the government should help masses with Ramadan packages during this period. Healthy food is most needed.
Right, Delejak Solomon, the federal government should come up with a win-win measure that will be taken against the novel coronavirus during the Muslim fasting month of Ramadan. Events as well as tents where people gather for iftar or breaking their fast, which may attract large groups or large groups of people will not be allowed.
All right, Ibrahim Modu Aji, let's employ social and physical distancing measures by praying the Tarawih, Tajud at home and conduct tafsir through mainstream media and online as advised by Sultan of Sokoto. Ramadan Karim to all Muslims.
Hello, Alpha C. COVID-19 affected the Easter celebration and now the Ramadan fast, and Muslims should use the period to fast and pray for Nigeria.
All right, and Emmanuel Batsi says that the world is moving into a new era. I charge our Muslim faithful to use this fast and pray to Allah to wipe away the novel COVID-19 pandemic from the surface of the earth.
Dr. Omininimi Obieve, well, this must be a name from Benin. Nigerian government can adopt the option of giving palliatives in this COVID-19 era through the various religious bodies to the citizens. Surely, it shall be more effective and accountable.
All right, Titus, Monday, it's wishing Muslim faithful happy Ramadan season and also cautioning that the season be celebrated with caution and determination, and pray that this pandemic is over soon.
Raji Afiz Abidemi, Ramadan Karim to all Muslim brothers and sisters. Let us use this time of Ramadan to pray to Allah to erase the pandemic in the world. God bless Nigeria.
All right, Bala and Babs, Islam is a religion of logic. There's no congregation during a pandemic. Even the Prophet enjoined all Muslims to pray at home during pandemic. He says we should not be swayed by emotions.
Yes, I didn't quite get what Samuel Leko is trying to say, but let me just take this aspect, which is more important, that we should pray during this Ramadan period.
All right, first as Akimbo Ewa, like the Christian Easter and Jewish Passover Ramadan that's normally marked by social gatherings and feasts to be observed by Muslims, yes, and he says federal and state government should relax the lockdown a bit to make it easier for Muslims to shop for food.
All right. Usman Banukantu. As Muslims all over the world commence Ramadan fast, the Muslim faithful should not lose the fact that COVID-19 is equally ravaging. Therefore, prayers should be intensified to get rid of the pandemic, and governments, well-to-do individuals should continue to provide the needed succor.
All right, Francis Obi, life is more important. It is the person that is alive that prays to Allah. Muslim faithful should avoid gathering in places and pray in their homes. Let this trial moments of COVID-19 be fully managed.
Abdul Ghaffar Alaji Hambali, this is the moment that we will show coronavirus who we are by praying hard during this month of Ramadan. My brother, prayer alone cannot do this. We will pray quite all right, okay, to God, but then you have to obey the measures, put in place by government. Prayer will also help, no doubt.
All right, I think we've got, let me also appreciate Cecilia Okoroma and Sani Michael Makoji for your tweets. Sorry, we cannot read all of them. We want to take our final questions, and my first question will go to everyone quickly and briefly too, so that Kieran can also take his questions. I'd just like to know, with regards to social distancing quarantine, and all the protocols, are there specifics both in the Hadith and in the Quran, that enjoins Muslim faithfuls, to observe these measures? Let me start with Imam Adem.
The word quarantine is an Islamic word which actually started by a Muslim scientist, which called Arbayin, which means 40 days. Anybody who has a contagious disease should stay at home for 40 days. Before the Italian people met him and they used it, they changed it to quarantine. So it's actually our own. So when you stay there, you are following Islam. Simple.
Social distancing. Social distancing.
Social distancing.
Yes.
You should do it because this one, the Prophet has told us that when somebody has a particular disease that is contagious, stay where you are. Then it means you have to stay where you are. Then thirdly, the Prophet, when somebody eats garlic or onion that are raw, he said that person should not come to the mosque because of just discomfort. What about the thing that you can get that also involves life? Do not spread this thing. Stay where you are and stay safe.
Okay, there's a lot of can also come in here. The same question, but the issue of garlic and the onions you talked about, people eat it and move freely around here, and it's not quite good. I'm happy it's captured in the Quran. There's a lot of the issue that he spoke on.
Well, it's very, very important because what Prophet says, we should follow it. Because when you eat garlic and then, in fact, when some hear the smell of garlic, they can start vomiting. So what they say is not good is not good. Then we should go with it.
All right, Imam Nura Khalid, what do you say in terms of all the protocol measures quickly?
Well,
Does the Hadith and the Quran support them?
Of course, it supports them. You see, the Quran said, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. Do not render yourself by yourself to danger. So you have to follow protocol that will help you. And one of the governors of Syria during the time of Umar radiallahu anhu was Amr ibn al-As. He was the one who was sent as a governor. Before him, somebody was sent and he died because of pandemic. And therefore, when he was appointed a governor, he told people that this pandemic is just like a fire. If fire cannot get what to eat, what to catch, it will die naturally. So you are the thing that the fire will eat. Therefore, separate yourself.
Fire. Okay. All right. Let's bring in finally Dr. Khalida Abubakar Aliyu, who is Secretary General Jamaatul Nasir Islam. Is it Quranic, to observe the current protocol put in place by government in the fight against coronavirus?
The glorious Quran, there are so many textual evidences which really mandate Muslims to observe protocols in terms of even simpler diseases. You can see that part of the protocol not to join congregational prayer is because of the offensive smell of the garlic and the onion. You can see that. Even this, they are not disease in themselves. They are part of the implements used for cure, let alone a pandemic and so on and so forth. Therefore, the protocol is well captured both in the Quran and the Hadith and the juristic opinions of the Muslim jurist. And we must really adhere to these protocols. In the present healthcare system, they are talking of just 2 weeks lockdown, 3 weeks lockdown. In Islam, the lockdown is 40 days. The distance is 40 days. 40 days for people to be distant, far away from the places or the areas where the pandemic is found, let alone it has gone viral throughout the world. Well captured, well explained. Ours is to follow.
Now, thank you. Just from you, Alem, just one answer, yes or no. Is a COVID-19 patient, is it safe for him to fast?
If he's sick, that is the first one. It's not safe for him to fast because he'll be taking drug. He can drop the fast, and by God's grace, he will be all right. He will fast again, the one he missed.
All right, Imam Faoud Adeyemi, National Chief Imam, Al-Habibiyya Islamic Society, Dr. Musa Olaofe, Chief Imam, Ansaruddin Mosque, and here in the studio, Sheikh Mohammed Nur Khalid, Imam Apu Legislative Quarters Mosque, Abuja, and from our Kaduna Network Center, Dr. Khalid Abubakar Aliyu, Secretary General, Jamaatul Nasr Islam. Distinguished Imams, I'd like to thank you once again, and of course to wish you Ramadan Kareem as you also observe the containment protocols.
Thank you so much.
All right, and that's it on Good Morning Nigeria for today. We'd like to thank you for watching. Don't forget that Ramadan has just started. We wish you well during this period, and also observe all the protocols because it is necessary and of course Quranic. My name is Kirian Umar. I'll see you again.
And I'm Claire Delabo Abdurazak. Have yourselves a good weekend and stay safe.